somewhere in the quiet distance of time, long before cities, stories, or even language. Humanity began as a soft flicker of awareness beneath the ancient sky. We were small, fragile, and surrounded by mysteries we could not name. Yet within us lived a spark capable of reshaping the world. Tonight, we drift gently into that deep human story. A story written not in words, but in footsteps, firelight, and the slow unfolding of consciousness. Allow the weight of the present moment to loosen as we return to where our journey truly began. In those early days, the world was vast and unsettled. The wind carried no voices, only the soft rhythm of the earth turning beneath the stars. Our ancestors moved carefully through the landscape, guided not by maps or knowledge, but by instinct, a quiet understanding of light, shadow, hunger, and shelter. Their lives were simple, yet every heartbeat contained the origins of thought, emotion, and imagination. Here, in this ancient silence, the foundations of what we would one day become were already taking shape. As thousands of years passed, a gentle shift began within the human mind. Awareness deepened. Patterns emerged. The world was no longer just a place to survive. It became something to understand. Every sunrise held meaning. Every season carried lessons. And every animal footprint whispered clues about the balance between life and the land. From these quiet observations came the first sparks of science, spirituality, and culture. Each one a step toward the complex consciousness we now carry. Humanity's evolution was not only physical, but deeply internal. We learned to imagine what did not yet exist. We dreamed, feared, hoped, and questioned. We created symbols to express the invisible landscapes of the mind, turning emotions into art, memories into stories, and the unknown into wonder. This slow awakening, shaped across tens of thousands of years, is still alive within us today. And as we journey through this story together, you may find that the quiet strength of those ancient ancestors continues to echo softly inside your own thoughts. In this quiet expanse, picture the ancient savannas where our earliest hominid ancestors moved with slow curiosity, rising gradually onto 2 feet, feeling the silent balance of their bodies adjusting gently to a new posture that changed everything. Two-legged walking was not an abrupt transformation, but a gentle unfolding over millions of years, a slow invitation for the spine, the hips, the legs, and the breath itself to settle into a new rhythm. With every slow migration across shifting landscapes, our ancestors learned to sense the world differently, seeing farther across open plains, feeling the wind settle softly against their upright forms, and allowing their minds to gradually expand with the possibilities of this new vantage point. As you breathe slowly here, imagine that upright posture within yourself, the ancient echo of standing tall, deeply rooted in the long and gentle ascent that still lives quietly inside your bones. With the slow refinement of stone tools, the rhythm of life began to change. Our ancestors journeyed across shifting landscapes, following slow migrations guided by climate, food, water, and the gentle whisper of survival. These migrations were vast, spanning millions of years, yet each step was small and unhurried, taken by bodies attuned to the silent rhythm of the earth. Imagine those slow migrations now, families moving through tall grasses, the warm sun settling softly on their skin, the ancient wind brushing gently through the air as they walked. Each journey carried knowledge forward, where the rivers curved, where shelter rested, where the stars aligned in familiar patterns overhead. As you breathe slowly, feel yourself part of that long and gentle journey. A living continuation of the silent footsteps that shaped the world long before written memory. As the slow migrations continued across vast and ancient landscapes, the quiet bonds between our early ancestors deepened gently, shaped by the soft necessity of cooperation and the silent comfort found in moving together through the world. And in this slow unfolding of shared survival, the first delicate threads of social structure began to appear. Not with sudden invention, but with gradual understanding, as individuals learned to read one another's movements, breaths, gestures, and soft emotional signals, forming a living tapestry of connection that stretched gently across generations. And as they traveled, resting beneath warm skies, or gathering softly around flickering nighttime embers, their shared presence became a gentle anchor, a place where silent evolution could settle in and flourish, allowing the earliest forms of empathy, protection, and communal care to slowly emerge, shaping the tender beginnings of what would one day become the incredibly complex, deeply human social world we now inhabit, yet all rooted in these first quiet gatherings under ancient stars, where breath, warmth, and closeness carried meanings that required no words. In the gentle hush of deep evolutionary time, as the ancient world unfolded slowly beneath warm African skies, our early ancestors continued their unhurried migrations across wide savannas, moving in small groups that drifted gently from one season to the next, always guided by the soft rhythm of climate, water, and food. And in these slow migrations, something delicate began to settle into the heart of the species. A sense of togetherness that grew not from sudden invention, but from millions of years of quiet, patient coexistence, where safety was found not in isolation, but in the gentle nearness of others, where each breath shared around a nighttime fire became part of a silent lineage of connection, stretching softly into the distant future. As these early groups walked slowly across shifting landscapes, each footstep pressing lightly into ancient soil, their minds continued to evolve in subtle, tender ways, shaped by the silent complexities of cooperation, gesture, attention, and memory. And with every passing generation, their inner worlds expanded gently, giving rise to a deeper awareness not only of the earth beneath them, but of one another's moods, needs, and quiet emotional signals. This gradual broadening of mind and empathy created the foundation for social life. And as you let your breath settle softly now, you may feel how this gentle evolution still echoes within every human interaction today. A soft reminder that we are shaped by millions of years of shared migration, shared warmth, and shared survival. Over countless ages, the simple gatherings around early fires became soft arenas for learning, watching, imitating, and passing knowledge slowly between generations, creating a flow of ancient wisdom that did not rely on formal speech, but on silent observation, patient repetition, and gentle mimicry. Here, the first hints of culture unfolded, not abruptly, but with a drift as soft as twilight. As groups developed quiet rituals, shared movements, and subtle traditions that brought comfort and continuity to their wandering lives. Imagine these scenes gently now, the warm glow of embers flickering across ancient faces, the slow rhythm of hands shaping tools, the steady breath of a child falling asleep beside its mother. Each moment woven into a thread of continuity that moved gently and silently through time. And as generations passed, this soft tapestry of shared existence grew more intricate, giving rise to cooperation in hunting, gathering, shelter building, and protection, all of which required delicate coordination and deepening trust. The earliest forms of leadership emerged not through dominance, but through quiet experience, through individuals who understood the landscapes gently, who could sense the patterns of rain, animal movement, and seasonal change, and whose calm presence helped guide others across uncertain terrain. These ancient leaders did not command. They embodied a kind of slow wisdom shaped by thousands of migrations, and in their presence, others found reassurance, stability, and the gentle certainty that the path ahead could be navigated together. In this soft unfolding of early humanity, the seeds of language rested quietly in the background, waiting for the mind to grow just a little more spacious, just a little more complex. And as social bonds deepened and emotional worlds expanded, the brain's architecture slowly reshaped itself over hundreds of thousands of years, creating the conditions for vocal expression, shared meaning, and the profound human need to communicate. Even before true language emerged, these ancestors used murmurs, gestures, rhythms, and subtle vocal patterns to maintain closeness during long migrations, to soothe their young, and to coordinate their movements. And as you breathe gently now, imagine how these quiet beginnings laid the foundation for every story we tell today, every whispered reassurance, every lullaby, every bond formed through the simple act of communication. As the long ages continued to unfold gently across the ancient world, the minds of our early ancestors settled ever more deeply into the quiet rhythm of cooperation, shaping their days and nights into patterns of shared purpose that drifted slowly from one generation to the next. And in this unhurried progression, the emotional fabric of humanity began to thicken softly, allowing individuals to sense not only their own needs, but the subtle moods and shifting energies of those around them, creating a slow, silent evolution of empathy that would become one of the defining features of our species. You can imagine them now, resting beneath a canopy of stars millions of years old, their bodies weary from slow migrations, yet their minds gently attuned to the presence of others, finding comfort in the soft nearness of companions who walked, breathed, and dreamed beside them through endless cycles of time. As their emotional worlds expanded, their behaviors changed with a similar gentleness, giving rise to early forms of caregiving that extended far beyond the simple instincts found in other animals. Injured members were tended to with patient attention. The elderly were escorted slowly through rough terrain, and the young were raised not just by mothers, but by the full group, creating a shared responsibility that strengthened social bonds and allowed knowledge to drift softly into every corner of the community. These acts of quiet compassion were not sudden breakthroughs, but slow, steady shifts guided by the delicate pressures of survival. And over countless generations, they became woven into the core of humanity, anchoring our evolution in tenderness as much as in strength. With this deepening social fabric came a growing awareness of time itself, an understanding that the world changed slowly, predictably, and cyclically, and that the patterns of nature could be learned, remembered, and passed along. The rising and setting of the sun, the drift of clouds, the movement of herds, the growth and withering of plants, all of these served as silent teachers, guiding our ancestors gently across landscapes that transformed with seasonal rhythms. Sitting beside ancient rivers or beneath the shade of vast trees, elders would gesture softly to younger members, showing them where water would flow after rains, where certain fruits ripened at specific times, and how to read the landscape with quiet attentiveness. Through these moments, memory became a tool as vital as stone, and the ability to hold knowledge within the mind became just as important as the ability to shape it with the hands. Over millions of years, these slow accumulations of experience nourished the gradual development of cognitive depth, allowing the brain to perceive not only the present moment, but the connections between moments, forming the earliest traces of planning, anticipation, and shared intention. This new mental spaciousness supported more sophisticated cooperation during hunts, longer-term preparation for migrations, and subtle coordination of tasks within the group. Each member understood their gentle role in the unfolding pattern of survival, and as their minds grew more capable of imagining what lay ahead, they also grew more capable of imagining what others might feel, think, or need. In this soft expansion of awareness, humanity took another quiet step toward the complex inner world that defines us today. And alongside these mental and emotional developments, there emerged a growing sense of belonging, not merely to a group, but to a lineage stretching far into the ancient past. The bones of earlier ancestors, discovered in dry riverbeds or scattered across open ground, were sometimes touched, examined, or even carried for short distances, hinting at an early recognition that others had walked the same paths long before. Though true symbolic thought had not yet fully blossomed, the gentle seeds of reverence were present, inviting a slow awareness that life extended beyond the individual and the present moment. And as you breathe softly now, you may feel the echo of that ancient belonging settling gently within you, reminding you that the story of humanity is not a sudden tale, but a long, slow unfolding, written across millions of years of quiet footsteps. As the ancient world continued its slow and gentle transformation, shaped by shifting climates and the unhurried rhythm of geological time, our early ancestors adapted with a quiet patience that allowed their bodies and minds to settle softly into new landscapes, new challenges, and new pathways of survival. Each generation carried forward not only the physical traits shaped by silent evolution, but also the subtle wisdom accumulated through countless migrations, creating an unbroken thread of experience stretching gently from one era to the next. Imagine them moving slowly across golden plains, their silhouettes outlined against the warm horizon, feeling the earth beneath their feet as both a home and a teacher, guiding them gently toward the future through patterns of wind, sunlight, and the steady movement of life around them. In these moments, the dawn of humanity was not a sudden event, but a quiet unfolding, shaped by patient adaptation and the slow refinement of behaviors that would one day define our species. As these ancestors wandered across the vastness of Africa, their bodies subtly transformed in response to the heat, distance, and constant movement that marked their everyday lives. Longer legs supported more efficient walking, freeing energy for the slowly expanding brain. Narrower hips balanced the demands of upright posture with the need to give birth to infants with ever-growing skulls. And the sweat glands across the skin allowed them to cool gently under the relentless sun, giving them a unique endurance unmatched by other animals. This interplay between body and environment unfolded across millions of years, each generation shaped softly by the climate's whisper, the landscape's curve, and the soft rhythm of survival. These changes were never abrupt. They drifted into being with the patience of time itself, carried forward quietly by the slow migration of families moving from one shaded refuge to another. Within these groups, communication continued to deepen in subtle ways, becoming more layered, more expressive, and more closely tied to emotion. Before the rise of true language, meaning flowed through soft gestures, shared glances, rhythmic movement, and gentle vocalizations shaped by breath and intention. A hum could soothe, a hand could guide, a posture could warn, and a shared rhythm could unite the group during long journeys or communal tasks. These early forms of communication were not merely functional. They strengthened the emotional ties that held the community together, allowing cooperation to flourish and making each individual feel gently anchored to others. As you breathe slowly now, imagine those ancient interactions, the soft murmur of reassurance, the quiet invitation to follow, the gentle signals of rest or movement, and feel how these early patterns still echo in the ways humans connect today. As quiet cooperation matured, the cognitive world of early humans widened further, giving rise to more complex planning and problem-solving abilities. Hunting strategies became more refined, requiring individuals to coordinate their movements, anticipate animal behavior, and share the rewards of their efforts. Gathering practices expanded with growing botanical knowledge as groups learned which plants offered nourishment, which offered healing, and which required caution. The slow accumulation of this knowledge formed an early map of the natural world, held not in written form but in memory, gesture, and the soft repetition of tradition across generations. This living map guided migrations, informed decisions, and allowed groups to navigate landscapes that stretched far beyond the familiar, all through the gentle continuity of shared learning. And through it all, the first faint sparks of symbolic thought began to shimmer quietly in the background, growing slowly within the expanding architecture of the brain. the ability to see patterns, to remember distant events, to imagine possibilities, and to understand relationships beyond the immediate moment. All of these developments drifted gently into place, preparing the mind for profound transformations that were still far in the future. Yet, even in these early moments, the seeds of storytelling, imagination, and abstract understanding were present, nestled within the quiet depths of consciousness. As night gathered around their small fires and the stars unfolded softly overhead, our ancestors sat together in silence, their minds reaching gently outward, feeling the first whispers of a richer inner world beginning to take shape. As time continued its slow drift through millions of years, the ancient landscapes that cradled early humanity shifted gently beneath changing skies, guiding our ancestors into new regions where unfamiliar plants, animals, and climates invited fresh adaptations of body and mind. These movements were never abrupt, never rushed. They unfolded softly across countless generations, as small groups explored new territories in gradual waves, following rivers that wound through valleys, crossing open plains where the wind whispered ancient stories, or resting beneath the soft shade of trees that offered both nourishment and refuge. Each journey broadened their understanding of the world, and each slow migration contributed another quiet chapter to the long, unfolding story of human evolution, allowing new behaviors, new skills, and new insights to settle gently into their shared memory. As the environment shaped them, their hands, those ancient instruments of possibility, continued refining their relationship with stone. What began as simple flakes gradually evolved into more specialized tools, sharper edges, more intentional shapes, more carefully chosen materials. These advancements did not arise from sudden flashes of brilliance, but from the patient repetition of daily life, striking stones together, observing the outcomes, learning from each small success or failure, and slowly passing this knowledge along. The rhythm of tool-making became a form of meditation, a steady tapping that echoed softly across generations, each sound carrying the quiet persistence of survival and creativity. And with each new refinement, the mind expanded its abilities, forming deeper connections between intention, action, and outcome, allowing early humans to transform their world with increasing subtlety and care. As these tools became woven into daily life, social structures grew more intricate, shaped by the delicate balance between cooperation and individuality. Small groups required every member to contribute, yet they also required harmony, patience, and an understanding of shared responsibility. Elders carried memories of distant seasons. Mothers held the rhythms of care. Youth brought curiosity and adaptability. And hunters coordinated with quiet signals shaped by trust. These roles were not rigid or hierarchical. They shifted gently according to need, ability, and experience, forming a social landscape as fluid and adaptive as the environment itself. And this Gentle coordination strengthened their sense of belonging, creating communities that moved together through time with the soft cohesion of a flock, each individual tuned to the movements and moods of the others. In this deepening weave of social connection, the foundations of teaching and learning expanded in subtle yet transformative ways. Children watched their elders with attentive eyes, absorbing movements, habits, and skills long before they could fully articulate the meanings behind them. Play became a gentle rehearsal for adulthood, a space where curiosity guided exploration and where mistakes carried no judgment, only insight. Through these interactions, culture began to take root, not as a sudden invention, but as a silent accumulation of repeated gestures, shared practices, and quietly evolving traditions. Culture flowed like water from one generation to the next, sometimes shifting, sometimes holding steady, always shaped by the needs and experiences of those who carried it. And through every moment of this ancient journey, the growing brain continued its slow expansion, both physically and imaginatively. New neural pathways formed as individuals navigated social complexities, crafted tools with increasing precision, and explored the landscapes around them. This cognitive growth allowed for richer emotional lives, deeper bonds, and more nuanced interactions. It also nurtured the gentle beginnings of imagination, the ability to envision possibilities beyond the immediate moment, to recall the past with clarity, and to anticipate what might unfold in the future. Beneath starlit skies, as night settled softly over the savannas, these early humans may have gazed upward with quiet wonder, sensing only faintly that the world was larger, more mysterious, and more connected than their daily struggles alone could reveal. As the slow arc of evolution continued to unfold gently across countless generations, early humans began to explore new regions beyond their familiar homelands, driven not by urgency, but by the quiet rhythms of climate, curiosity, and opportunity. The African landscape, with its shifting grasslands, cooling forests, and expanding river systems, offered both challenges and invitations, guiding small groups into territories they had never seen before. Each step beyond the known world carried the breath of possibility, and though these migrations stretched across hundreds of thousands of years, they unfolded with a calm continuity that allowed bodies, minds, and traditions to adapt softly to each new horizon. Imagine them walking slowly beneath wide, ancient skies, feeling the wind settle gently across their skin as they followed the silent patterns of the earth into regions where new stories were waiting to begin. As they ventured outward, their encounters with unfamiliar environments shaped their evolution in subtle, harmonious ways. Cooler climates encouraged the use of hides for warmth, while shifting landscapes required heightened awareness and more refined coordination. The presence of new predators strengthened group cohesion as individuals relied more deeply on one another for safety, guidance, and shared vigilance. Each adaptation unfolded gradually, woven gently into daily life through repeated experience, patient learning, and the silent inheritance of behaviors that proved essential for survival. Even the simple act of observing the flight of birds, the growth of plants, or the movement of distant animals became part of a quiet dialogue with nature. A dialogue that taught them how to endure, when to rest, and where to seek shelter in the vast openness of the world. During this long journey, the slowly expanding brain began to reveal its extraordinary potential, allowing early humans to create increasingly complex mental maps of their surroundings. They could remember watering holes that dried up seasonally, anticipate the migration of herds, and recognize subtle shifts in the weather. These mental abilities gave rise to an early sense of continuity between past, present, and future, allowing individuals to navigate not only space, but time. And as you breathe gently now, you can imagine how these ancient minds, though still far from modern complexity, were rich with awareness, attuned to patterns, rhythms, and the soft unfolding of life around them. Their growing capacity for foresight and planning laid the groundwork for all future human achievements, from exploration to culture to the quiet, profound interior world of imagination. As their inner capacities grew, so too did their social bonds, which became increasingly structured, yet remained fluid enough to adapt to the ever-changing world. Larger groups offered stability, while smaller subgroups moved with greater agility, and both dynamics existed in a gentle balance shaped by trust and shared responsibility. Disputes were resolved through subtle gestures, shifts in posture, or moments of quiet separation, as early humans relied not on spoken negotiation, but on the deep, intuitive understanding of emotional signals that had been honed over millions of years. In these interactions, the seeds of cooperation, reciprocity, and fairness were sown, principles that would one day become the foundation of human morality, yet began with nothing more than the gentle awareness of how one's actions affected the harmony of the group. And throughout these slow migrations, the relationship between humans and their tools deepened steadily, weaving technology into the fabric of daily life. Stones were chosen more deliberately, shaped with greater precision, and used for tasks that required both strength and finesse. Over time, these tools became extensions of the mind itself, enabling early humans to transform their environment with quiet intention, cutting meat, processing plants, crafting shelters, and defending themselves with techniques passed down through soft repetition. With each improvement, the connection between hand, mind, and purpose grew more seamless, forming the silent foundation upon which all future innovations would rest. As night fell gently across their encampments, and the glow of fires illuminated ancient faces, these early humans carried within them the quiet certainty that their world was changing, expanding, and slowly evolving towards something greater. As the ancient rhythms of the earth continued their slow and gentle transformations, the lives of early humans unfolded within an ever-changing tapestry of light, shadow, and climate, guiding them into deeper relationships with the landscapes they crossed. The gradual fluctuations of temperature, the shifting ranges of vegetation, and the long cyclical patterns of rainfall encouraged group to explore new territories with quiet curiosity, allowing their migrations to drift softly across vast distances over thousands of generations. These movements were never rushed. They followed the calm pulse of nature, the gentle ebb and flow of life, creating a slow and continuous evolution of behaviors, bodies, and understanding. Imagine them traveling together beneath a softly glowing sky, listening to the distant murmurs of wind and water, feeling each step connect them more deeply to the ancient world they depended on so completely. As these journeys carried them through diverse environments, from open grasslands to shaded forests, from river valleys to rocky uplands, the challenges they encountered shaped their abilities in subtle, enduring ways. Navigating steep terrain encouraged balance and coordination. Spotting distant animals strengthened vision and attention, and learning the habits of predators sharpened intuition and social vigilance. Every difficulty was a teacher, offering lessons absorbed not through sudden insight, but through quiet repetition across countless lifetimes. And with each adaptation, early humans grew more attuned, bold to their surroundings, developing a gentle resilience that allowed them to flourish even in uncertain conditions. Their evolution was not a response to crisis, but a continuous conversation with the earth, one spoken through movement, breath, and the soft, enduring patience of survival. With time, their developing minds began to create richer inner landscapes, shaped by memory, expectation, and the subtle ability to imagine outcomes before they occurred. These cognitive shifts allowed groups to coordinate more effectively during hunts, anticipate seasonal changes, and prepare for long migrations. Individuals learned to store information about food sources, nesting habits, and the safest paths across difficult terrain. Such knowledge was precious, not because it belonged to any one person, but because it lived within the group, shared softly through gestures, rhythms, and patient demonstration. The seeds of culture took root here as traditions formed silently, passed from elder to youth, with a continuity that required no words, only presence, attention, and the gentle unfolding of experience. As their thinking deepened, so too did their emotional worlds. The bonds within groups became increasingly layered, shaped by shared hardships, communal care, and the quiet intimacy of traveling each day side by side. Compassion emerged gradually, not through sudden revelation, but through the practical reality that cooperation brought safety, warmth, and a more peaceful existence. When an elder stumbled, others slowed their pace. When a child cried out, several arms reached to comfort. When food was scarce, resources were often shared with a delicate understanding of balance. These acts of care formed the earliest echoes of morality, rooted not in rules but in empathy, the gentle awareness that the well-being of one was connected to the well-being of all. In these soft exchanges, the groundwork for human kindness was laid. Through all of this, the night remained a companion, a quiet realm where the flickering glow of small fires illuminated the faces of our ancestors as they rested after long migrations. Under the vast canopy of stars, their thoughts expanded gently into the darkness, shaped by the soft hum of insects, the distant calls of nocturnal animals, and the warmth of bodies settled close together. These nightly gatherings offered a space for reflection, learning, and connection. Even before true language existed, in the calm spaces between breath and silence, imagination stirred slowly, giving rise to the first hints of symbolic thought. Patterns of the sky, movements of animals, and cycles of the moon began to settle into memory in ways that would one day form the foundation of myth, story, and meaning. But in these early moments, they simply rested as quiet wonders, gentle mysteries sensed, but not yet spoken. As the slow currents of deep time continued to guide early humans across shifting landscapes, the world around them began to present new patterns, new rhythms, and new subtleties that shaped their evolution with a gentle but persistent influence. The climate moved through long cycles of warming and cooling, encouraging groups to drift softly into unfamiliar regions where different plants grew, where rivers carved fresh paths across the earth, and where new animals moved in herds that offered both opportunity and challenge. These environmental changes unfolded gradually, giving our ancestors time to adjust their behaviors, refine their observations, and deepen their reliance on one another. Walking beneath endless skies, they carried within them a quiet resilience, a steady confidence born not from dominance but from adaptation, a gentle willingness to learn from the land and to settle into whatever shape the world asked of them. As these migrations led them into regions where resources varied more dramatically, the groups began to develop a more nuanced understanding of seasonal cycles. They learned which fruits ripened after rains, which roots could sustain them during harsher months, and where shade could be found during the heat of the day. This knowledge was not held by any single individual, but existed as a collective memory, shaped by generations of careful watching and slow learning. Elders taught the young by example, pointing toward distant hills or certain trees with quiet gestures that held meaning far beyond their simplicity. Through these gentle exchanges, ecological knowledge became a living thread connecting past and present, ensuring that each new generation could navigate the landscape with the same calm confidence as their ancestors. In the midst of these environmental lessons, early humans also began to observe one another with increasing sophistication. Subtle shifts in posture, tension, or breath communicated needs that words did not yet exist to express. A soft tilt of the head could signal danger. A relaxed movement could offer reassurance. A shared glance during a hunt could coordinate an entire group's actions. Over time, these gestures formed a quiet language of presence, a system of communication rooted not in sound but in awareness. This silent dialogue strengthened social cohesion, allowing individuals to move as a single, fluid unit when necessary, and offering comfort in moments of stress or uncertainty. The capacity to sense another's emotions became a survival tool, just as important as any physical adaptation. guiding the evolution of empathy with a depth found in no other species. As social life grew more complex, so did the mind's ability to navigate relationships, roles, and responsibilities. Some individuals became skilled toolmakers, shaping stones with patient precision. Others excelled at tracking animals across large distances, reading footprints and disturbances in the soil with quiet expertise. Still others possessed a calm intuition for weather patterns or safe gathering sites. These strengths complemented one another, creating a gentle balance within the group where each member contributed uniquely to the shared task of survival. Leadership emerged not through force, but through reliability. Those who consistently guided the group safely were followed, not because they commanded, but because they inspired trust. This soft structure of influence laid the groundwork for the cooperative social systems that define humanity today. And as night continued to fall gently across their encampments, early humans gathered around small fires that pushed back the darkness just enough to create a circle of warmth and safety. The flames flickered softly across ancient faces, illuminating eyes that held the reflections of a slowly expanding consciousness. In these quiet moments, the seeds of symbolic thought glimmered faintly, nurtured by curiosity and the growing ability to connect past events with present experiences. Patterns in the stars, the changing shape of the moon, and the behaviors of animals all began to form associations within their minds, creating a subtle awareness that the world was not random, but filled with rhythms to be understood. Though full language and myth were still far in the future, the early stages of meaning-making had begun their gentle ascent, carried forward softly through the breath, memory, and imagination of our ancient kin. As the long ages continued their gentle drift forward, early humans found themselves encountering new materials, new landscapes, and new possibilities that quietly shaped the unfolding of their evolution. Among the most influential of these discoveries was fire, not a sudden revelation, but a slow and gradual relationship that deepened across millennia. At first, fire was a distant phenomenon, observed only from afar, as lightning set dry grasses ablaze, or as volcanic activity illuminated the horizon with glowing rivers of heat. Over time, however, a small group learned to approach the remnants of these natural fires, gathering glowing embers and carrying them gently from one resting place to another. This careful tending of fire brought warmth during cold nights, protection against predators, and a quiet space where social bonds could deepen. In the soft glow of these early flames, humanity's path unfolded in a new direction, shaped by light that flickered slowly across ancient faces. As fire became a more consistent part of their lives, the rhythms of daily existence changed in subtle yet profound ways. Food cooked over embers became easier to digest, allowing nutrients to be absorbed more efficiently and freeing energy for the slow expansion of the growing brain. The night, once a vast and uncertain darkness, softened into a realm where warmth, safety, and community could flourish. Individuals gathered closely around the fire, sharing heat through both physical proximity and social connection. And in these moments, communication evolved in gentle new directions. Soft vocalizations, hand gestures, and rhythmic movements gained greater meaning in the steady light, supported by the calm environment created by the fire's presence. These nightly gatherings became some of the earliest centers of human culture, offering the quiet space needed for symbolic thought to take root and for imagination to unfold gently into new forms. The mastery of fire also allowed early humans to explore landscapes once inaccessible. With the ability to stay warm during the coldest nights and to deter predators more effectively, groups ventured into unfamiliar regions, gradually expanding their range across valleys, mountainsides, and forest edges. Each new environment offered unique materials and challenges, encouraging experimentation and slow refinement of tools. Stones were heated to improve their sharpness. Hardened wooden spears allowed for more effective hunting, and ash from burned vegetation enriched the soil around encampments, subtly influencing plant growth in ways that would shape future interactions with the environment. These innovations were never abrupt. They emerged through countless cycles of observation, trial, and quiet repetition, strengthening the relationship between early humans and the land they traversed. Around the fire, the seeds of deeper communication blossomed further. The steady warmth and predictable light encouraged longer periods of social interaction, allowing individuals to mimic sounds, exchange gestures, and share emotional cues with greater clarity. Over generations, these subtle exchanges nurtured the foundation upon which language would one day rise. Children watched the movements of adults, practicing soft vocalizations that carried meaning through tone and rhythm rather than vocabulary. Elders conveyed knowledge through slow, deliberate gestures, pointing toward stars, plants, or distant paths, while others listened with quiet attention. These forms of communication did not yet resemble structured language, but they carried intention, emotion, and shared understanding in ways that strengthened group cohesion and allowed cultural traditions to spread gently across generations. And as these nightly gatherings continued, the mind's capacity for symbolic thought deepened in the soft cradle of firelight. Patterns in flames, shadows cast against stone, and the rhythmic crackle of burning wood offered sensory experiences that encouraged imagination to stretch beyond immediate survival. Individuals may have begun to see shapes in the flickering patterns, or to associate the movement of fire with natural forces beyond their understanding. These quiet moments of contemplation, shaped by warmth, safety, and the gentle companionship of others, nurtured the early stirrings of spirituality, creativity, and wonder. Though they did not yet possess the language to express such ideas, the seeds were there. Tiny sparks of insight glowing softly in the darkness, preparing humanity for the long, unfolding journey toward art, story, and meaning. As fire continued to settle gently into the rhythms of early human life, its presence nurtured not only warmth and safety, but also a profound shift in the way our ancestors experienced time, community, and inner awareness. Nights that once belonged entirely to darkness slowly transformed into softly illuminated spaces where groups could remain awake longer, sharing the gentle stillness that the fire's glow created around them. In this expanded night, minds had the rare opportunity to wander beyond the immediate demands of survival, drifting slowly into more reflective states where memories, sensations, and emotions could linger and unfold. The fire offered a calm center around which thoughts could settle, and as individuals sat quietly watching embers fade into shimmering ash, the beginnings of contemplation took root, a delicate, unhurried awakening of the inner world that would one day define the human experience. With the growing importance of fire came new layers of social interaction, shaped by the long hours spent in one another's presence. The fire provided a shared focal point, drawing individuals naturally into closer proximity, reinforcing bonds through warmth, light, and a subtle sense of ritual. Children drifted to sleep in the laps of caregivers. Elders rested with gentle dignity, their eyes reflecting years of knowledge, and adults exchanged slow, rhythmic gestures that communicated reassurance, cooperation, and unity. These moments of collective stillness strengthened the emotional fabric of the group, reminding each member that survival was not an individual endeavor, but a deeply communal one. The fire's steady glow created a space where cooperation could flourish, where conflict softened, and where empathy deepened as individuals came to understand one another not only through action, but through quiet presence. As these nightly gatherings solidified the group's social cohesion, the expanding mind began to explore the boundaries of symbolic association with increasing subtlety. Patterns in the movement of flames, shapes forming in rising smoke, and the shifting glow against the surrounding landscape created a gentle canvas on which early imagination could project meaning. Though these interpretations were fragile and unspoken, they laid the groundwork for the eventual rise of symbolic thinking, the ability to see beyond what is immediately visible, to associate ideas across distance and time, and to form quiet connections between the physical world and the inner one. The fire acted as a bridge between these realms, offering sensory experiences that could be held in memory, revisited with emotion, and gradually transformed into something more abstract, preparing the human mind for future leaps in cognition. Beyond the mental and social changes it nurtured, fire also influenced the physical landscape of early human life. Burned areas opened new pathways through dense vegetation, allowing easier travel and creating habitats that attracted grazing animals. Ash enriched the soil, encouraging the growth of nutrient-rich plants that groups would come to recognize and rely on. Small fires deliberately set by early humans may have been used to manage landscapes in simple, experimental ways, helping them shape their environment with gentle intention rather than merely reacting to it. These early interactions with ecological modification foreshadowed the far more complex relationships humans would later form with the land. Relationships defined by cultivation, stewardship, and the ability to reshape entire ecosystems with careful planning. But in these ancient times, such interventions were soft, intuitive, and guided by an understanding of nature developed through countless generations of observation. And through all of this, The fire remained a constant companion, a beacon of warmth that illuminated not only the physical world, but the emerging inner landscape of humanity. Its glow softened the edges of the night, creating a space where individuals could sit in peaceful reflection, their minds drifting gently across memories, sensations, and possibilities. In this calm environment, the earliest traces of storytelling may have flickered into being, shaped not by structured language, but by gesture, rhythm, and shared attention. A movement of the hand could suggest a hunt. A pattern drawn in ash could represent a path. A soft vocalization could evoke the presence of animals or the rhythm of the wind. These proto-stories were fragile, wordless, but deeply meaningful. Seeds that would one day blossom into the full flowering of myth, narrative, and culture. And as you breathe gently now, you may feel how these ancient moments still echo within the human mind today, reminding us that the path toward meaning began not with speech, but with silence, warmth, and the slow unfolding of imagination beneath an ancient sky. As early humans continued to gather around their softly glowing fires, a new layer of social experience began to unfold. One shaped not only by survival and cooperation, but by the gentle emergence of shared attention, a phenomenon that allowed individuals to focus together on a single object, gesture, or event. This shared attention created a subtle but profound shift in how information moved through the group, enabling knowledge to be transmitted more reliably, more deeply, and with increasing nuance. When one individual pointed toward a distant sound, others followed the gesture. When a seasoned hunter traced a pattern in the dirt, younger members watched with quiet focus. When a mother soothed her child with rhythmic motion, the entire group understood the emotional meaning behind it. In these moments, the early scaffolding of communication took shape, not yet language, but the gentle architecture that would one day support it, each gesture forming a small bridge between minds. As these bridges strengthened across generations, the cognitive world of early humans expanded in complexity, creating spaces within the mind where memory, intuition, and emotion flowed together in new and intricate ways. The slow evolution of the prefrontal cortex allowed individuals to hold multiple ideas at once, to compare possibilities, and to empathize more deeply with the experiences of others. This mental spaciousness gave rise to the earliest forms of problem solving that extended beyond immediate needs, such as anticipating the movements of herds far in advance or preparing for seasonal scarcity by storing resources. In these gradual developments, the seeds of foresight and planning took root, allowing groups to navigate the challenges of their environments with increasing sophistication. And all of this unfolded gently, shaped by countless interactions under the watchful glow of the fire, where minds were nurtured by warmth, quiet, and the steady rhythm of community. With these expanding cognitive abilities came a new emotional depth that allowed early humans to interpret and respond to the needs of others with heightened sensitivity. A distressed expression could elicit comfort, A hesitant movement could signal a need for reassurance. A relaxed posture could communicate safety. These emotional cues formed an intricate web of connection that strengthened the group's resilience, ensuring that individuals were not left isolated in moments of vulnerability. This early empathy, though simple in its expression, represented a monumental shift in human evolution, guiding behaviors toward cooperation and mutual support rather than competition alone. In nurturing one another, these ancient groups developed the foundation for the social harmony that would one day define human societies, teaching each generation through gentle example that survival was a shared endeavor, carried forward by compassion as much as by strength. As the emotional fabric of these communities deepened, so too did the significance of the fire as a symbolic center of life. It became a place where individuals returned each evening, regardless of what the day had brought, a constant, glowing reminder of safety, continuity, and belonging. Sitting together in the soft glow, they shared not only warmth but the rhythms of their inner lives: fatigue, relief, curiosity, and the quiet contentment of being surrounded by familiar faces. Over time, the fire came to represent the heart of the community, a steady presence that shaped patterns of rest, protection, and reflection. Though they lacked words to express such symbolism, the meaning was felt deeply, embedded in the gentle behaviors that unfolded each night as flames rose, settled, and faded into glowing embers. And in these long nights of shared presence, imagination blossomed slowly, nurtured by the steady interplay of light and shadow, the rhythmic crackle of burning wood, the dance of sparks drifting upward into the darkness, and the shifting silhouettes cast against the surrounding landscape offered endless opportunities for the mind to wander. Individuals may have begun to interpret these patterns as hints of unseen forces or as reflections of memories and emotions stored deep within. These quiet contemplations marked the earliest stirrings of abstract thought, the beginning of a mental world that extended far beyond the immediate senses into realms of possibility, symbolism, and quiet wonder. Though language had not yet given structure to these ideas, the foundations were forming, shaped by the gentle union of curiosity, social connection, and the hypnotic presence of firelight beneath an ancient, timeless sky. As generations continued their slow drift through the vastness of time, early humans found themselves drawn ever more deeply into the rhythms of their environments, shaping their lives around patterns that repeated gently across seasons and landscapes. These patterns, the migration of animals, the blossoming and withering of plants, the rise and fall of rivers, provided a quiet structure that allowed groups to anticipate the world around them with increasing confidence. Through patient observation and repeated experience, they learned to sense the subtle signs that foretold change. The distant call of birds signaling shifting weather, the faint smell of moisture carried on the wind before rain, the soft transformation of foliage as seasons turned. Such knowledge did not emerge suddenly. it settled slowly into the collective mind, woven into memory through countless days and nights spent immersed in the natural world. As their understanding deepened, early humans began to experiment gently with the materials around them, discovering that wood, bone, and stone offered different possibilities when shaped with intention and patience. Wooden shafts could be sharpened and hardened in fire. Bone fragments could be carved into points, needles, or ornament-like shapes, and stones of various textures could be chipped into tools suited for cutting, scraping, or hunting. Each material had its own voice, its own rhythm, which could be learned only through repeated contact and quiet attention. These early experiments expanded the range of human capability, allowing groups to adapt more flexibly to changing conditions and to approach their environment not merely as observers, but as participants who could shape their world gently through skill, insight, and creativity. Through these material innovations, social structures grew more textured and dynamic. Certain individuals developed particular expertise, becoming adept toolmakers, skilled trackers, or reliable foragers whose knowledge supported the entire community. These roles were not rigidly defined, but emerged naturally from talent, experience, and the needs of the group. Respect was earned quietly through demonstrated ability and calm reliability, rather than through dominance or force. Elders became living repositories of memory, carrying decades of accumulated experience that guided younger members through the complexities of the landscape. In their presence, stories began to take shape. Not verbal stories, but embodied ones, expressed through gesture, demonstration, repetition, and the quiet continuity of tradition that linked the past with the present. As the fabric of community deepened, individuals began to form bonds that extended beyond the immediate family. Cooperative partnerships emerged between juveniles who played together, adults who collaborated on hunts, and elders who provided care for children not their own. This web of relationships strengthened the emotional and practical resilience of the group, allowing them to withstand hardships with greater ease. When one member faltered, others supported them. When food was scarce, resources were shared. When danger approached, individuals stood together with quiet determination. These behaviors reflected the early blossoming of social complexity, a gentle expansion of connection that would one day support human societies far larger and more intricate than anything these ancestors could have imagined. And through all these developments, the nights remained a realm of deep significance, a quiet world illuminated by small fires that gathered the community into a circle of warmth and safety. As flames flickered against the darkness, casting long shadows that danced across the ground, individuals settled into states of rest and reflection, their minds drifting softly between memory and imagination. It was in these moments, when the body relaxed, the breath slowed, and the world beyond the fire seemed to fade into infinity, that the earliest forms of symbolic association may have taken their first delicate shape. A shape in the flames might evoke a distant animal. A rhythm in the crackling wood might suggest a pattern in the hunt. A shadow cast on stone could hint at meaning beyond mere form. These quiet stirrings of perception laid the groundwork for the future rise of art, language, and story. The gentle ascent of the human mind into realms of thought that extended far beyond the immediate moment. As early humans continued to wander gently across shifting continents, the slow accumulation of knowledge, skill, and shared experience began to shape their inner and outer worlds in increasingly profound ways. The landscapes they explored were immense and varied. Rolling savannas, dense woodlands, river valleys shaped by ancient currents, and high plateaus where the wind carried stories that only intuition could interpret. Moving through these vast environments required a quiet attentiveness, a sensitivity to subtle cues that guided their decisions and movements. Each new region offered lessons written in the language of nature, the texture of bark revealing medicinal properties, the pattern of animal tracks offering clues about water sources, the arrangement of roots pointing toward fertile soil. Over countless generations, this gentle dialogue with the earth cultivated a deep environmental intelligence, woven softly into the rhythm of daily life. As this bond with nature deepened, early humans began to develop more sophisticated strategies for securing resources. Cooperative hunting techniques emerged slowly, shaped by trial, error, and the instinctive understanding that a group acting in harmony could accomplish what a single individual could not. Hunters learned to coordinate their movements, surrounding prey with quiet precision, using gestures instead of sounds to maintain the element of surprise. Meanwhile, foragers expanded their botanical knowledge, identifying edible plants, roots, and seeds with increasing accuracy. The division of tasks, though fluid, became more organized as individuals gravitated toward roles that suited their strengths and temperaments. These subtle adaptations allowed communities to thrive even in challenging environments, strengthening the social and ecological threads that held the group together. Within these growing layers of cooperation, the architecture of the human mind continued to evolve with slow but steady refinement. The ability to hold multiple ideas at once, to recall past experiences, interpret present conditions, and anticipate future outcomes grew more robust, giving rise to a deeper sense of continuity. Individuals began to understand not only what was happening around them, but why it was happening, forming early causal relationships that guided their behavior. This cognitive expansion also nurtured the foundations of teaching, as elders demonstrated techniques with patient precision, while younger members observed with earnest curiosity. The imitation of actions, once simple mimicry, evolved into a more intentional form of learning, where the meaning behind each gesture could be grasped and integrated. In these quiet exchanges, culture crystallized, not through written words, but through lived example. As the cognitive landscape broadened, so too did the emotional world of early humans. The recognition of individual identity and personal preference, though still primitive in form, began to emerge within the group. Some individuals displayed calm leadership, Others expressed nurturing behaviors, and still others carried a keen sense of exploration that drove the community toward new horizons. The interplay of these temperaments added texture to the social fabric, giving rise to cooperation that extended beyond immediate need and into the realm of long-term bonds. Friendships, alliances, and pair bonds formed with a depth shaped by trust and shared experience. These emotional connections offered stability in uncertain environments, grounding individuals in the gentle certainty that they were not alone, that their existence was supported by the quiet strength of those around them. And in the stillness of night, the time when the day's wanderings gave way to contemplation, the fire continued to shape the inner evolution of humanity. Shadows danced along the ground, weaving patterns that stirred the imagination, while the flames themselves offered a soft focal point for wandering thoughts. Individuals rested in the warmth, their minds floating gently between sensory experience and the beginnings of abstraction. These moments of quiet reflection nurtured the earliest forms of symbolic association, giving rise to mental images that extended beyond the immediate world. Perhaps a child traced lines in the dirt, unaware that such gestures echoed the future seeds of art. Perhaps an elder noticed shapes in the constellations, unaware that such interpretations would one day inspire stories of great cosmic meaning. In these ancient nights, under skies filled with stars that had witnessed millions of years, the human mind continued its slow, gentle ascent, awakening not through sudden leaps, but through the steady accumulation of countless moments of presence, connection, and wonder. As the long sweep of time carried early humans farther across shifting landscapes, their connection to one another and to the natural world deepened with a quiet consistency that shaped every aspect of their existence. The earth itself became a kind of ancient guide, offering soft lessons through the patterns of wind, the movement of clouds, the voices of animals, and the subtle transformation of vegetation across the seasons. These early group learned to read these signs with growing sophistication, sensing when rains would return, when fruit would ripen, and when herds would begin their slow migrations across open plains. Nothing about this knowledge was rushed. It settled gently into memory through countless repetitions, forming a shared understanding of the land that united individuals across generations. As they walked softly beneath vast skies, they carried within them a deepening awareness that the world was alive with rhythms they could learn, follow, and trust. Within this expanding environmental awareness, early humans refined their cooperative strategies in ways that strengthened both their survival and their social harmony. Hunting required careful coordination, where individuals moved in patterns shaped by observation and instinct. Each gesture signaling a shift in approach or a moment to pause. Foraging demanded attention to detail, as gatherers searched for edible plants while avoiding those that carried subtle dangers. And protecting the group from predators relied on collective vigilance, where each member, regardless of age or role, contributed to the safety of the whole. These activities forged relationships built on trust, presence, and the understanding that every life was intertwined with the lives of others. Through these shared experiences, the group's cohesion became a gentle anchor, grounding their existence in cooperation rather than conflict, and nurturing an emotional landscape where empathy and mutual reliance could flourish. As cooperation deepened, the structure of learning evolved into something more intentional and layered. Younger members observed the skilled actions of adults with keen curiosity, imitating movements that held meaning far beyond their simplicity. Elders provided guidance with slow, practiced gestures, shaping tools, tracking animals, identifying plants, demonstrating not only technique but also patience, timing, and awareness. These intergenerational exchanges formed the foundation of cultural continuity, allowing knowledge to flow through the group with the steady persistence of a river carving its way through stone. With each lesson passed down, the minds of early humans expanded, forming connections between action and consequence, between environment and possibility. This flow of learning became one of the defining features of humanity's ascent, creating a system where experience did not fade with age, but accumulated gently across lifetimes. As their mental abilities grew, so too did their emotional complexity. Individuals learned to sense subtle shifts in the moods of others, the hesitation of a child discovering uncertainty, the quiet confidence of a skilled hunter returning to the group, the gentle comfort offered by a caregiver to someone in distress. These emotional exchanges were not bound by language, but flowed through posture, breath, and the soft resonance of shared experience. Over generations, this emotional intelligence became a powerful tool for navigating social life, allowing early humans to resolve conflicts, reinforce bonds, and maintain harmony within the group. This growing emotional depth prepared the species for future complexities of social structure and communication, laying the groundwork for relationships that would one day include not only practical cooperation, but affection, loyalty, and the quiet desire to belong. And as night embraced the world each evening, these early humans returned to the comforting glow of fire, where the day's exertion faded into the soft quiet of rest. The fire's light created a sanctuary within the darkness, a boundary where safety, warmth, and connection gathered into one gentle space. Here, minds could drift into states of reflection, imagination, and quiet awareness, unburdened by immediate demands. Individuals traced patterns in the dirt, watched embers glow and fade, or gazed at constellations moving slowly across the sky. These moments offered the mind a rare opportunity to wander freely, forming connections between memories, sensations, and dreams. In this nightly communion with fire and stars, the earliest seeds of symbolic thought continued to unfold, preparing humanity for the long, unfolding journey toward art, language, story, and meaning. A journey that would soon begin to accelerate, carried forward by the quiet strength of countless generations who lived, moved, and dreamed beneath the ancient sky. As early humans continued their slow expansion across the African continent, their encounters with new environments nurtured subtle changes in both their bodies and their minds, guiding them gently toward greater adaptability. Each region carried its own quiet lessons. Forests where light filtered softly through dense canopies, coastlines rich with shellfish and tidal rhythms, and highlands where cooler air required new strategies for warmth and endurance. These landscapes, with their endless diversity, shaped early humans through gradual pressures that encouraged flexibility, curiosity, and resilience. In moving through such varied terrains, the species learned to rely not only on instinct, but on observation and innovation, creating a gentle momentum that pushed evolution forward without force or urgency, but through the soft persistence of survival itself. As they adapted to these diverse habitats, early humans began to experiment with new forms of toolmaking that reflected the specific needs of each region. Stones were chosen not only for their sharpness, but for their density, their grain, and the way they fractured under pressure. Wooden implements evolved to suit different types of hunting or gathering, shaped by repeated trial and error, as individuals refined techniques that had been passed down through countless generations. These tools became extensions of the body, allowing early humans to interact with their environment in increasingly sophisticated ways. This relationship between hand, mind, and material deepened over time, preparing the species for the later technological leaps that would transform their world. Yet even in these early stages, the seeds of ingenuity settled gently into place, supported by the quiet collaboration of elders teaching youth and youth observing, imitating, and slowly mastering the ancient crafts. With each new skill acquired, the cognitive landscape continued to evolve, expanding the capacity for abstract thought, memory, and emotional understanding. The ability to anticipate the future, to sense when animals would migrate, when rains would return, or when danger might arise, became increasingly refined. This foresight guided decisions not only in hunting and gathering, but also in social dynamics. As individuals learned to recognize the importance of maintaining harmony within the group, conflicts were resolved through subtle gestures rather than physical confrontation. Cooperation became a natural response to shared challenges, and a gentle sense of responsibility toward others grew steadily, shaping the early foundations of morality. These shifts were not sudden, but emerged slowly, tethered to the deepening emotional bonds that held communities together. Within these evolving social worlds, relationships began to take on new dimensions, shaped by trust, mutual reliance, and the subtle rhythms of companionship. Pair bonds formed with increasing stability, not solely for reproduction, but for shared parenting, protection, and emotional support. Siblings nurtured younger siblings. Elders guided the group with calm experience, and friendships emerged through shared tasks, shared wanderings, and shared moments of rest beneath ancient trees. This intricate web of connections strengthened the community's resilience, allowing them to weather hardships with quiet unity. It also created the conditions for more complex cultural practices to develop. Small rituals around food, shelter, and rest that gave each group its own identity, passed gently across generations without the need for words. And each evening, as day folded softly into dusk, the fire once again became the heart of the social world, drawing individuals into a circle of warmth that offered protection and peace. The glow illuminated faces tired from travel but comforted by proximity, and the crackling flames provided a soundtrack to the quiet murmur of shared presence. Here, in the soft hours of night, minds drifted beyond the constraints of survival, exploring memory, symbolism, and the first stirrings of imagination. Shapes that seen during the day reappeared in the dancing shadows. Patterns in the sky inspired wonder, and the boundaries between the known and the mysterious blurred gently. These nightly gatherings nurtured the emergence of storytelling, not yet through spoken language, but through gesture, rhythm, and shared attention, weaving the earliest threads of myth into a world still shaped by silence. Beneath the ancient constellations, humanity continued its gentle ascent, guided by curiosity, connection, and the steady glow of firelight. As countless generations continued their slow and gentle journey across ancient landscapes, early humans found themselves increasingly shaped by the subtle interplay between environment, community, and the expanding inner life of the mind. The world around them offered an ever-changing canvas of textures, sounds, and rhythms. The rustle of grasses beneath soft wind, the distant calls of animals traveling through shadowed valleys, the patterns of light shifting across stone and soil. These sensory experiences settled deeply into their awareness, shaping not only how they navigated the land, but how they understood themselves within it. They learned to attune their movements to the quiet signals of dawn, to follow the shadows cast by the sun as it drifted across the sky, and to sense the mood of the environment through the subtle shifts in air, light, and scent. Each moment of presence strengthened their connection to the natural world, creating a harmony between body and landscape that guided their evolution with gentle persistence. As the relationship with nature deepened, early humans developed increasingly refined methods for obtaining and processing food, drawing on a growing repertoire of techniques that balanced cooperation with individual skill. Groups coordinated drives of herd animals toward natural barriers, used crafted tools to break open tough shells or bones, and shared gathered plants in ways that reflected the gentle flow of trust and reciprocity. These shared tasks required a kind of social choreography, where each individual sensed their role with quiet clarity and adjusted their actions in response to the movements of others. The slow development of these strategies strengthened social bonds, reinforcing the understanding that survival was not merely an individual endeavor, but a collective dance, performed with patience, harmony, and deep awareness of the group's needs. Within this context of cooperation, the human body continued its subtle transformation, shaped by the demands of long-distance movement, resource gathering, and the mental challenges of social life. Longer legs supported efficient travel across open plains. Hands evolved to perform increasingly precise tasks, and the growing brain required more nourishment, pushing communities toward dietary diversity. These physical changes unfolded with the slow rhythm of time, each generation differing only slightly from the one before it, yet cumulatively steering the species toward new potentials. This patience of evolution mirrored the patience of daily life, where success was measured not by sudden breakthroughs, but by small, consistent acts that accumulated across seasons, migrations, and lifetimes. With the mind's expansion came a growing capacity for emotional nuance, allowing early humans to experience and interpret feelings in more complex ways. Joy, fear, frustration, curiosity, and affection all found richer expression, guiding behavior and deepening connections between individuals. This emotional landscape became a vital tool for navigating the intricacies of group life. A glance could communicate reassurance. A posture could signal tension. A touch could convey comfort. These emotional signals formed a quiet language that allowed early humans to maintain harmony within the group, resolving conflicts with subtle gestures and strengthening bonds through gentle acts of care. The ability to feel and respond to the emotions of others nurtured a sense of belonging that became central to human life, anchoring individuals in the shared experience of being part of something larger than themselves. And throughout these developments, the nightly return to fire remained a ritual of profound significance, a pause in the day's movement where the mind could settle and the body could rest. The fire's glow softened the world into warm hues, transforming the surrounding darkness into a familiar protective sphere. Here, early humans found space not only for rest, but for the gentle emergence of imagination. Shadows flickered against stone, suggesting forms that invited interpretation. Embers glowed like distant stars, inspiring contemplation of the unknown. And the rhythmic sounds of crackling wood blended with memory to create the earliest stirrings of inner narrative. Without words, they shared these experiences through synchronized gazes, soft gestures, and the unspoken understanding that something meaningful was unfolding within the quiet circle of light. In these moments, the foundations of art, ritual, and story began to take shape, carried forward not by language but by presence, by the simple act of being together, breathing in rhythm beneath the vast ancient sky. As the long arc of evolution continued its slow, unbroken flow, early humans deepened their relationship with the landscapes they inhabited, moving gently between regions guided by the rhythms of climate, migration, and the subtle cues held within wind and soil. Over countless generations, these pathways became familiar, even sacred, as groups learned to recognize the quiet markers of seasonal change, the scent of approaching rain, the slight shift in animal trails, the soft transformation of plant colors signaling ripening or decline. These signs were woven into collective memory, forming a living map carried not in drawings or symbols, but in the minds of those who had walked the same routes countless times. Each journey was both a continuation and a remembrance, a gentle passage through land that held the footprints of ancestors stretching back millions of years. As familiarity with these roots grew, early humans developed more refined methods of understanding the natural world, using their sharpened senses to interpret information that existed far beyond simple observation. They listened to the distant calls of birds as indicators of approaching weather, touched the texture of soil to gauge its moisture, and followed the scent of certain plants that signaled nearby water. Their relationship with the environment was intimate and continuous, sustained by an awareness that grew gradually richer with each passing generation. This deep sensory attunement fostered a kind of ecological intelligence that allowed communities to navigate complex landscapes with quiet confidence, guiding them safely through the vast and shifting mosaic of their world. Within this deepening connection to nature, early humans continued to refine their social relationships, developing structures that balanced individual needs with the well-being of the group. Leadership emerged from those who possessed calm judgment, deep environmental knowledge, or consistent reliability, traits that inspired quiet trust rather than fear. These leaders guided the group through difficult terrain, mediated conflicts with subtle gestures, and provided reassurance during moments of uncertainty. Their influence was not imposed but earned, woven into daily life through countless acts of steady presence and patient guidance. This gentle form of leadership nurtured a sense of safety and unity that allowed the group to flourish, setting the stage for the more complex social hierarchies that would one day emerge. As social complexity increased, the mind's ability to form and maintain relationships expanded in parallel. Pair bonds grew deeper, friendships more nuanced, and intergenerational ties more meaningful. Younger members played not only to learn, but to build the social flexibility that would serve them throughout life. Elders, with their decades of accumulated experience, provided wisdom and stability, while adults of all ages contributed to the group's well-being through skills in hunting, gathering, protection, and care. These relationships created a dense emotional web, allowing individuals to experience a sense of belonging that transcended immediate tasks. The community became a source of identity, continuity, and comfort, a gentle presence that shaped both survival and inner life, teaching each person that their existence was part of a larger, enduring whole. And through every phase of daily life, the fire remained a central anchoring force, a sacred hearth around which the rhythms of evening unfolded with comforting predictability. Its glow cast warm light across faces, etched with the day's journey, softening hard edges and creating an atmosphere where vigilance could loosen into rest. As individuals settled into the circle of flame and shadow, the mind's attention shifted inward, exploring memories, sensations, and questions that could not find space amid the demands of daylight. Children traced shapes in the dirt, mimicking the movements of animals or the patterns of clouds. Adults sharpened tools in quiet reflection. Elders murmured soft gestures that conveyed meaning without words. These fireside moments became the birthplace of contemplation, the cradle of symbolic thought, and the gentle spark of the imagination that would one day blossom into art, story, and the profound inner worlds that define our species. Under the vast star-filled sky, early humans continued their patient ascent, guided not only by necessity, but by the slow awakening of curiosity, meaning, and the quiet wonder that lived within each breath. As millennia continued their gentle drift forward, early humans began to deepen their understanding of the environments they passed through, forming quiet connections not only to the land itself, but to the patterns that governed it. The shifting of seasons, once simply endured, became something anticipated. The soft budding of plants signaling the return of warmth, the thinning of herds indicating the slow approach of scarcity, the lengthening shadows at dusk revealing the subtle turning of the earth. These realizations settled slowly into collective memory, shaping the timing of migrations and the rhythms of daily life. Each observation became another thread in the tapestry of understanding, passed down from elders to youth, not through structured teaching, but through presence, imitation, and the gentle repetition of experience. In this way, knowledge accumulated softly across generations, forming a living continuity that guided communities with calm and steady assurance. As their awareness of nature grew more refined, early humans also began to modify their surroundings in subtle, intentional ways. They cleared small patches of land near resting sites, creating safer spaces free of thick vegetation where predators might lurk. They encouraged certain edible plants to grow near their encampments by dispersing seeds or by returning repeatedly to fruitful areas, unknowingly influencing future plant distribution. They set controlled fires to open dense underbrush, allowing new growth to flourish and attracting grazing animals. These early interactions with the landscape were gentle precursors to environmental management, small hints of the transformation that would one day blossom into agriculture. But for now, these acts held no grand ambition. They were simply quiet collaborations between humans and the world they lived in, guided by intuition, patience, and the slow, steady partnership with nature that defined their existence. Within this unfolding relationship between humans and environment, the social fabric of the group continued to mature in depth and complexity. The rhythms of cooperation became more structured, and the roles individuals played grew more nuanced. Youthful explorers scouted ahead during migrations, their curiosity drawing them into new paths. Skilled hunters coordinated complex pursuits with unspoken signals. Gatherers shared intimate knowledge of plants and roots, and elders served as anchors of wisdom, interpreting subtle environmental signs and offering direction during uncertain times. These intertwined roles created a balanced social ecosystem where every member contributed to the group's survival, and where the emotional bonds formed through shared effort strengthened the sense of unity. Trust grew not through words, but through countless acts of care, sacrifice, and quiet presence that reinforced the understanding that survival was a collective journey. As social life expanded, so too did the early forms of symbolic association that would one day evolve into full language. Around the fire, individuals replayed the day's experiences through gesture and rhythm, using hands, facial expressions, and movement to mimic events or communicate warnings. These proto-stories, though wordless, carried all the essential ingredients of narrative: sequence, emotion, meaning, and shared interpretation. Children watched with wide, attentive eyes, learning to read the silent language of expression long before spoken words existed. Adults responded with murmurs, laughter, or soft imitations, reinforcing the shared emotional world that bound the community together. These performances laid the groundwork for storytelling, planting seeds that would eventually grow into myths, rituals, and the rich symbolic traditions that define human culture. Even in these early gestures, one can sense the first fragile sparks of imagination, gently illuminating the interior world of the mind beneath the warm glow of the ancient fire. And while the days were filled with movement, exploration, and survival, the nights offered a sanctuary for reflection, connection, and the quiet contemplation that shaped the human spirit. Beneath a sky scattered with stars, old ancient stars whose light had traveled across vast cosmic distances, early humans found themselves enveloped in a sense of wonder that stirred something deep within. They felt the vastness of the world, the mystery of the heavens, and the simple but profound comfort of belonging to a group that shared food, warmth, and presence. These nightly gatherings became the cradle of meaning, offering a space where emotion and imagination intertwined, where silent questions rose into the mind, and where the first gentle form of spiritual awareness may have taken shape. In the flickering dance of firelight and shadow, humanity's inner life began its slow, quiet ascent, carried forward by the breath of those who sat, rested, and dreamed beneath the ancient sky. As early humans continued to navigate the vast and varied landscapes of their ancient world, the gradual expansion of their capabilities allowed them to engage with their surroundings in increasingly intentional and creative ways. Their journeys carried them across plains where tall grasses whispered in the wind, into forests filled with shifting light, and along riverbanks where the rhythm of flowing water carved soft pathways through the earth. In each new region, they encountered unfamiliar animals, plants, and geological formations, prompting them to observe with heightened curiosity and to adapt with gentle flexibility. This continuous exploration nurtured a kind of quiet intelligence, one that blended instinct with experience, allowing individuals to recognize patterns, anticipate changes, and adjust their behavior in ways that strengthened the group's resilience. As they walked slowly beneath a sky that extended endlessly in all directions, they carried within them the beginnings of a deeper awareness, a sense that the world was both a teacher and a companion, offering wisdom through its rhythms and silence. As their knowledge accumulated, early humans began to integrate more sophisticated strategies into their daily lives, reflecting a slow but steady increase in cognitive depth. For hunting, they developed coordinated approaches that relied on subtle signals, a raised hand indicating stillness, a slight tilt of the head directing attention, or a silent movement toward a specific position. These strategies required anticipation, planning, and an understanding of the behavior of both prey and fellow group members. For gathering, individuals developed intimate familiarity with plants, learning to recognize not only those that were edible, but those that could heal wounds, relieve discomfort, or provide materials for tools and shelter. These skills were transmitted through gentle demonstration, with elders showing younger members the textures of leaves, the shapes of roots, and the soft places where water collected after rain. Through these acts of shared learning, knowledge flowed from generation to generation like a quiet stream, nourishing the growing complexity of human life. Within this expanding cognitive and ecological landscape, the emotional world of early humans continued to deepen, becoming a powerful force in guiding behavior and shaping social bonds. Individuals learned to interpret subtle cues in the expressions, postures, and movements of others, allowing them to sense joy, tension, fear, or contentment with increasing clarity. These emotional insights helped maintain harmony within the group, fostering cooperation and ensuring that conflicts were resolved through attention and understanding rather than force. The desire to care for others, especially the young, the elderly, and the injured, grew stronger, driven by a deeper recognition that each member contributed to the group's long-term survival. Acts of comfort, protection, and shared effort reinforced social cohesion, creating a gentle network of support. These acts steadied individuals through the uncertainties of life. This emotional interconnectedness would become one of the most enduring hallmarks of humanity, shaping the evolution of families, communities, and cultures in ways that would reverberate across time. As these social and emotional developments unfolded, the mind itself began to explore new territories of imagination and perception. Even without formal language, thoughts could drift into symbolic associations, where shapes, patterns, and rhythms took on layers of meaning beyond their immediate appearance. Individuals may have begun to recognize certain constellations as recurring patterns that signaled seasonal change, or they may have perceived shapes in clouds, rocks, or shadows that stirred intuitive responses. These early symbolic perceptions laid the groundwork for the future emergence of art, myth, and ritual, expressions of meaning that would one day allow humans to articulate their understanding of the world in profound new ways. It was in these subtle moments, when the external world blended with internal awareness, that the first glimmers of spiritual thought took shape, guided not by doctrine, but by curiosity, wonder, and a quiet reverence for the mysteries of existence. And as each day drew to a close, the night offered a gentle sanctuary where the mind could drift freely, unburdened by the demands of movement or survival. The fire cast its warm glow across resting bodies, creating a circle of light light within the vast darkness that surrounded them. In this safe space, individuals found solace in the presence of others, a reassurance that they belonged, that they were part of a lineage stretching back through countless generations. The stars above, shimmering with ancient light, mirrored the quiet fires below, creating a shared sense of connection that extended beyond the immediate group into the larger fabric of the world. In these moments of stillness, the inner life of humanity continued its slow unfolding, preparing the species for the profound developments yet to come. Language, art, ritual, and the deepening awareness that they were not merely surviving, but becoming something more, something capable of meaning, reflection, and gentle imagination beneath the timeless sky. As countless generations moved softly through the ancient landscapes of their world, early humans found themselves entering a new phase of cognitive awakening, one shaped by the slow accumulation of memory, observation, and shared experience. The environments they traversed, forests painted with shifting shadows, riverbanks glistening under the gentle pull of sunrise, and open plains stretching toward distant horizons, offered continuous opportunities for learning, inviting them to attune their senses to the subtle messages carried within wind, earth, and sky. Over time, these experiences nurtured a growing capacity for pattern recognition, giving individuals the ability to anticipate events before they unfolded. They learned to sense the coming of storms in the smell of the air, to predict animal behavior through the faintest of tracks, and to understand the seasonal cycles that shaped the availability of food. These insights settled deeply into the fabric of community, forming a quiet but powerful knowledge that guided their movements with increasing precision. As their environmental awareness sharpened, early humans began to refine the tools and techniques that supported their daily lives. Stones were shaped with delicate adjustments, leading to more specialized instruments for cutting, scraping, and hunting. Spears were crafted with greater balance and strength, allowing for more efficient hunts that relied on coordination and shared strategy. Even simple materials like fibers and hides were transformed into useful objects through weaving, binding, and stitching. Early expressions of dexterity that hinted at the artistic capabilities still centuries away. These innovations emerged not from sudden bursts of inspiration, but from countless cycles of trial and repetition, where individuals observed, practiced, and perfected techniques over long spans of time. Through these patient acts, the relationship between hand, mind, and intention deepened, forming the foundation of a technological evolution that would one day reshape the world. Within the growing complexity of their material culture, the social fabric continued to mature, giving rise to roles and relationships that contributed to the stability and resilience of the group. Skilled toolmakers shared their expertise with younger members, shaping not only objects but minds prepared to innovate. Foragers developed intimate knowledge of plants, using their understanding to guide the selection of roots, fruits, and leaves that sustained the community. Hunters relied on each other's strengths, coordinating their movements with silent signals formed through years of practice. Caregivers tended to infants, ensuring the continuity of each generation with patience and love. These roles were not rigid, but flowed gently according to ability, age, and circumstance, reinforcing the understanding that diversity of skill strengthened the entire group. Through these connections, early humans began to experience community not as a simple gathering of individuals, but as a living system of interwoven responsibilities and gifts. As their social networks became more intricate, the emotional landscape of early humans expanded in parallel, creating an inner world rich with sensations, bonds, and meaning. Individuals learned to comfort one another through touch, silence, or presence, forming attachments grounded in trust and familiarity. Jealousy, affection, pride, and grief emerged in early forms, shaping interactions and deepening the significance of relationships. These emotions were not merely reactions, but forces that influenced decisions, guiding behaviors toward cohesion and cooperation. The ability to sense another's distress or joy became a vital skill within the community, allowing for subtle adjustments that maintained harmony. This emotional intelligence laid the groundwork for the moral and ethical systems that would one day define human societies, rooted not in written laws, but in the quiet understanding that the well-being of one was tied to the well-being of all. And when the sun dipped below the horizon, the fire once again became the luminous center of early human life, offering warmth, protection, and space for reflection. Within its circle of light, minds drifted freely into contemplation, where memories from the day blended with dreams, forming early narratives that existed before true language. Gestures mimicked the movements of animals. Shadows cast against rock stirred faint symbols within the mind, and the dance of flame evoked associations that hinted at the future birth of art. The night sky above, vast and filled with stars older than any living memory, invited early humans to sense their place within a universe far larger and more mysterious than their immediate surroundings. These nightly gatherings shaped the interior world of the species, nurturing the inner life that would become the soul of humanity, the capacity to wonder, to imagine, and to seek meaning in the gentle, silent unfolding of existence beneath the ancient, endless sky. As early humans continued their gentle movement across the tapestry of ancient landscapes, a slow but profound transformation began to take place within the inner architecture of their minds. The gradual expansion of memory allowed individuals to hold more detailed impressions of the past, the location of a fertile grove, the scent of a healing plant, the safe passage around a steep ravine. These memories were not fleeting images, but deep, embodied impressions, carried forward in gestures, habits, and shared practices that united generations. Over time, this accumulation of knowledge nurtured the early foundations of tradition, allowing certain behaviors to become stable, reliable responses to recurring challenges. These traditions, though wordless, created a sense of continuity that stretched far beyond individual lifetimes, forming the earliest threads of culture. A quiet, slow-growing tree rooted in the deep soil of shared experience. As their understanding of the world matured, early humans began to develop more sophisticated social structures that balanced freedom with cohesion. Groups grew slightly larger, forming loosely connected bands that came together seasonally to exchange mates, share resources, or strengthen alliances. These gatherings, though rare and subtle, provided opportunities for genetic diversity and the sharing of techniques across wider networks. Individuals observed unfamiliar tool forms, new methods of hunting, or unique gestures that carried meaning in other groups. These exchanges enriched their own communities, creating a gentle diffusion of ideas that drifted across regions with the slow passage of generations. This quiet interconnectivity foreshadowed the far more complex social networks that would one day support the spread of language, art, and innovation across continents. Within these slowly expanding networks, symbolic association continued to deepen as individuals formed connections between images, memories, and emotions in increasingly layered ways. The sight of a distant mountain might evoke the memory of a past migration, while the sound of a specific bird could signal the arrival of a new season. These associations were not yet articulated in language, but were held within the body and the intuition, shaping behavior in subtle but powerful ways. In this growing realm of symbolism, early humans began to create simple marks in sand or earth during play or demonstration, primitive gestures that allowed thoughts to linger outside the mind, if only for a moment. While these marks did not yet carry formal meaning, they represented the first glimmers of externalized thought, the earliest whispers of the writing, art, and abstract communication that would emerge many millennia later. The emotional life of early humans also deepened, bringing richness and texture to their relationships. Bonds formed not only through necessity, but through preference, affection, and familiarity. Individuals sought comfort from those whose presence soothed them, gravitated towards companions whose movements matched their own rhythms, and formed lasting attachments that offered safety during difficult times. Grief emerged more sharply as bonds grew stronger, reminding the group that their connections were not merely practical, but rooted in genuine emotional significance. These emotional developments shaped the social fabric in quiet yet enduring ways, encouraging cooperation, compassion, and the subtle instincts that kept groups stable and united. Through these feelings, early humans gained a deeper sense of belonging, an awareness that their lives were intertwined with others in ways that extended beyond survival alone. And in every evening's descent, the fire remained the guiding star of their inner and outer worlds, drawing them into a shared circle where the day's stories unfolded through gesture and movement. Children clustered near elders, watching as hands traced shapes in the air or mimicked the gait of animals. Sparks rose into the sky, disappearing into the vast darkness where constellations glimmered like ancient eyes observing from above. The flames illuminated not only faces, but the emerging contours of imagination itself, providing a canvas where shadows could stir thoughts of spirits, ancestors, or unseen forces. These nightly gatherings were the first cradle of shared meaning, the earliest sanctuary of human reflection, where silence carried depth and where the imagination began its timeless ascent toward art, myth, and the quiet poetry of existence. Beneath that ancient, star-filled dome, humanity continued to evolve from the inside out, guided by firelight, memory, and the gentle unfolding of the human soul. As early humans continued their gentle expansion across the varied landscapes of Africa, their minds opened slowly to deeper forms of awareness, shaped by the subtle interactions between memory, perception, and the rhythmic patterns of the world around them. With each passing generation, their ability to recognize recurring natural cycles strengthened, allowing them to navigate shifting climates with increasing confidence. They sensed the approach of seasonal rains through the soft swelling of clouds on the horizon, detected the migration of animals through faint disturbances in grass and soil, and anticipated changes in vegetation through the shifting hues of distant hills. This growing sensitivity formed a kind of intuitive calendar, a living, breathing understanding of time that guided their movements with a quiet precision born from thousands of years of attentive observation. Through this slow accumulation of wisdom, the environment became not just a backdrop, but a deeply familiar companion. As their awareness expanded, early humans refined their strategies for gathering and processing food, drawing on a growing repertoire of knowledge passed gently from elders to the young. They learned to distinguish between similar plants by taste, texture, or scent, discovering which roots nourished them, which berries healed them, and which leaves carried hidden dangers. These insights were taught not through lectures, but through presence. Children walking alongside adults, touching plants, tasting small pieces, mimicking careful movements. Over time, these lessons formed a collective intelligence that guided entire groups towards fertile areas and away from hazards. This botanical understanding deepened as years turned to centuries, laying the early groundwork for humanity's future relationship with cultivation, agriculture, and the intentional shaping of landscapes. Within the slow unfolding of these ecological and practical skills, the structure of social life continued to evolve in gentle, meaningful ways. Group cohesion strengthened as individuals developed clearer roles based on skill, age, and temperament. Skilled toolmakers shaped stones with practiced precision, transforming raw material into sharp points and useful edges. Hunters with keen perception worked closely together, moving in patterns shaped by silent signals and shared intuition. Gatherers navigated familiar routes with an understanding cultivated through experience. Elders held the memory of many seasons, guiding the group with calm judgment, helping them interpret subtle environmental signs that could mean the difference between scarcity and abundance. These intertwined roles created a delicate harmony, ensuring that responsibilities were shared and that the survival of the group rested on a foundation of cooperation rather than competition.